If you're expecting a quiet drive and are interrupted by clunking noises, you should be concerned. If you hear a clunking noise when driving over bumps, it could be even more concerning as you begin to question your on-road safety. In this guide, we discuss the most common causes of clunking over bumps. We also show you how to diagnose and repair the problem so you can drive again in peace. It's the Car Problems YouTube channel. Subscribe and let's get started. Bad sway bar links or bushings. Worn sway bar links or bushings are the most common cause of a clunking noise coming from your car when you go over bumps. These sway bar links have ball joints that will wear out and make a clunking noise over time. A clunking noise will be produced if the sway bar bushings that hold the sway bar are worn. To inspect these components, the vehicle must be on a flat surface without being raised. Do not use a floor jack to raise the car because this will cause tension in the links and bushing, and you may not be able to tell if they are bad or not. Bad struts. Struts are in charge of dampening vehicle bounce and supporting the structure. The struts, however, will eventually fail, causing a clunking noise when traveling over a bump. The strut housing can also be damaged in some cases, particularly after an impact. In this case, the noise may be even more noticeable. You can check if everything is working properly by pressing down on the front and rear of your vehicle. If the strut is damaged, it may pop as it rises and falls. You can also turn the wheels to check for clunking or popping noises. The next step would be to physically inspect the strut. If you notice oil around the housing, the strut may be leaking and will need to be replaced. Inspect the coil springs that surround the struts as well. Failing shock absorbers. Shock absorbers function similarly to struts, but they do not support the vehicle's weight. Because this critical suspension component must absorb impact from the wheels, you can expect to hear clunking sounds as it fails. You may initially only hear a slight tapping noise, which is common when a bushing cracks. When driving over a bump, the car also begins to bounce more. Examine the shocks for signs of damage. To get a good look at the shocks, you may need to lift the vehicle and use a flashlight. Some people would rather try the bounce test. If you push and let go of the vehicle, it should never bounce more than once before regulating itself. You can also check the tread on the tires to see if the shocks are worn out. When shocks fail, the tread starts to cup. To avoid tire wear, it's best to replace the bad shocks as soon as possible. Damaged control arm bushings. The control arm bushings will eventually wear out even under normal driving conditions. However, if you drive off-road or through rough terrain, you may encounter this failure sooner. Misaligned wheels are caused by worn control arm bushings. You may hear more clunking as you drive over a bump as a result of the poor alignment. If the problem extends into the body mount, you may notice vibration in the cabin. You can also use your flashlight to inspect the control arm bushings. You can also perform an on-road test because bad control arm bushings make more noise during a quick takeoff or stop, as well as over bumps. If the control arms are damaged, they must be replaced. These components can also become twisted or loose. Steering rack malfunction. The steering rack also has bushings that can fail over time. If these bushings fail, you may hear a clunking or knocking noise as you drive down an uneven or bumpy road. If there is a failure, there will also be excessive play in the steering rack. As a result, you may have a more difficult time keeping the car under control. You must jack up the vehicle to inspect the steering rack. Support it properly by placing the jack stands at the locations specified in your service manual. With one hand at 3 o'clock and the other at 9 o'clock, grab the front tire. Shake the tire from side to side while someone inspects the steering rack bushings. If you hear knocking in the tire or notice strange movements, you should replace the bushings or steering rack. Fluid can leak from the steering rack boot, indicating that it needs to be replaced. Fortunately, bushings are usually inexpensive. Worn leaf spring shackles. Leaf springs are typically found on vehicles that will be used off-road. They could be in your SUV or truck. The leaf springs can break or bend over time, causing a clunking noise. Furthermore, this issue could be caused by the leaf spring shackle. This is the part that connects the leaf spring to the vehicle's frame. You should be able to see the leaf spring shackles and inspect them for damage with a flashlight. In some cases, you may need to use a floor jack and jack stands to raise the vehicle. If you notice any damage, bent shackles, or loose parts, it is time to replace them. You can also check the mounting bolts and tighten them with a wrench at the same time. Bad ball joints. When the ball joints fail, steering the vehicle straight becomes more difficult. Furthermore, a damaged ball joint housing can produce more noise when traveling over bumps. If there is debris or grime buildup, the housing is prone to failure. You will also hear noises if the ball moves in and out of the housing as a result of excessive play. During certain road conditions, this problem frequently results in a recognizable clunking noise. The ball joints will not be inspected in the same way as the other suspension components. You won't be able to find broken or damaged ball joints with your flashlight. With the ball joints, there should be a cotter pin and a castle nut. While the wheels are off the ground, you should be able to wiggle the ball joint with your pry bar to check for play. If there is excessive play, it is time to replace them. Worn body mount. The body mounts are in charge of attaching the vehicle frame to the body. If any of these mounts are damaged, you will undoubtedly hear more noises. Not only could you hear noise, but something could also be misaligned. As the body mount bushings wear out, you may notice more gaps or cracks in the body where everything was previously aligned properly. However, these body mounts are almost exclusively found on trucks that have a vehicle frame. Your vehicle may have up to 8 body mounts, all of which should be inspected when the clunking noise starts. If any mount is damaged, it must be replaced immediately to ensure that your vehicle remains safe and secure on the road. These mounts are not present in unibody vehicles. The sound could instead be coming from the subframe that houses the rear suspension and engine. Is it safe to drive with a clunking noise? Any part of the suspension could be to blame if the clunking noise starts. A bad suspension makes it difficult to control the vehicle, putting you at risk of an accident. As a result, and to ensure that the rest of the suspension remains intact, it's best to replace the problem as soon as possible. Hope the information was helpful for you. If so, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel.